And the idea that Musa alayhi salam is actually diagnosing in them is that these people, actually what they worship is their feelings. It feels good, so I'll do it. It feels like this will make me more acceptable, so I'll do it. It feels like this is, feels. The religion is a religion of feelings. Oh, I don't practice this religion because I don't feel as good in this, but when I went to the church the other day, they had a concert, it felt so good. So I go there instead. Feels. إنكم قوم تجهلون إن هؤلاء متبر ما هم فيه. These people, Musa alayhi salam said, it is utterly destroyed. Whatever they are drowned in, whatever behavior they're engaged in, is meant to be destroyed. It's already destroyed. This is not prosperous behavior. This is not a better way. This is just jahl, and it's meant to be destroyed. مُتَبَّرٌ مَا فِيهِ وَبَاطِلٌ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And it has, what they've been doing has no basis in reality. This is entirely made up. If you are going to follow the religion because of how it feels, then that's the religion for you. But if you're going to follow a religion because it's based on something, it's based on a truth, it has haqq at the core, at the roots of it, then what these people are offering is nothing more than empty feeling. بَاطِلٌ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Empty nothingness is all they're doing. Batil is عدم الحق. Batil doesn't just mean false, it means something that doesn't exist. عدم الحقيقة. It's the absence of reality, the absence of existence is actually batil also. So when Allah says certain gods are batil, it means they don't even exist. This is entirely a figment of imagination. In hiya illa asma'un, like in another place in Quran, Allah says, In hiya illa asma'un sammaytumuha antum wa aba'ukum. These are nothing but names, you made them up. You and your gods, you and your fathers. قال أغير الله أبغيكم إلها وهو فضلكم على العالمين وإذ أنجيناكم من آل فرعون يسومونكم سوء العذاب يقتلون أبناءكم ويستحيون نساءكم وفي ذلكم بلاء من ربكم عظيم. Look at the words of Musa alayhi salam and followed immediately by the words of Allah directly. There's an iltifat. Musa alayhi salam says, I should find you another God other than Allah after He gave you so much favor over all the other nations in the world. He gave you favor. He let you overpower the most powerful superpower on earth. He gave you that in front of your own eyes. It wasn't even generations ago. It was in your own lifetime. And I should find you a different God? أَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ أَبْغِيكُمْ إِلَهًا. This is your request? And then Allah Himself intervenes and says, وَإِذْ أَنْجَيْنَاكُمْ. It's not Musa talking anymore, it's Allah Himself saying, how could you say this when we're the ones who rescued you from the people of Fir'aun? They were humiliating you. They were torturing you in the worst ways. They were slaughtering your children. They were letting your women live. And in all of that, all of those, Allah rescuing you from all of that was such a huge blessing for you. And in all of those trials was such a huge difficult test for you. And Allah allowed you to get out of all of that test, and this is what you turn into. Muslims of today, we have to think about some things. In this ayah, in these set of ayat, Allah has taught us to not forget our history and to be grateful for the ways Allah has rescued us. For example, Muslims that originate from South Asia. Muslims that originate from South Asia not a century ago, and some of that extremism is returning now to India, for example, and in Sri Lanka and other places, Buddhism and Hinduism, that they see Islam as a foreign virus that came to that region and we have to get rid of it again. Many of the extremist elements within Hinduism and even Buddhism are seeing that as a problem. But when Islam came and Islam became established in the region, and many of you originate from that region, there were forces ready to mass execute Muslims, to mass slaughter, genocide, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Muslims, and that did not happen centuries ago. Some of you have grandparents that are alive right now that remember. They remember those grandparents, they remember going to the masajid, begging Allah, Ya Allah, give us an opportunity to raise our children on Islam. Ya Allah, give us an opportunity to become to continue the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then you go a couple of generations later, and their grandkids want to have their wedding that looks more like a Hindu wedding than a Muslim wedding. And you go a couple of generations later, and they want to celebrate, they want to idolize idol worship and idol worshippers like their celebrities and their icons. This is just a couple of generations later. It's not even centuries later. And it reminds me of what happened with Musa alayhi salam when Allah allowed them to cross the water. And this is not just for South Asians. This also happened, for example, in North Africa. This happened in Egypt. This happened in other places. These places were also colonized. Algeria was colonized by the French. How many French people slaughtered Muslim youth, slaughtered entire families. And now, for many Algerians, many young Algerians, the greatest dream is to move to France. What? There's still videos and pictures of what these people did to you. There's still that. And there's an embarrassment in learning Arabic, and there's a pride in learning French among some of them. How did that happen? So you take pride in the language of Fir'aun, but you don't take pride in, and language is from Allah. But I say, especially for Muslims from across cultures and across continents, that one of the things we have to do is not forget our own history. We cannot allow ourselves to forget our own history. Allah reminded Banu Israel of their own history. And one of the things we learn from that is I have to teach my children their own history. Where did you come from? How did Islam come into our family? When did it get there? What were the threats? How did Allah protect this religion? How did we end up where we ended up? If you don't have perspective on that, if you think Islamic history is just the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ and it's the stories of the Prophets in the Quran and it ended there, those stories are teaching you the importance of stories. Those are the base stories. But because of them, we have to develop an understanding of our own histories. And if our own kids don't even understand their own history, they have no real sense of identity. When they go to school, people don't, I saw this in Germany more starkly than I saw here, but I don't know enough about the experience of Muslims here to be able to say, but in Germany you have Turkish Muslims that have lived there for almost a century. And they're lighter skinned, they don't look any significantly different from the German. But people ask, so you're Turkish, right? So 100 years could go by, you're still not German, you're still Turkish. Right? And those kids, they don't speak any Turkish, they speak fluent German, they were born there, they have a German passport. They're German legally, but actually the society never accepted them as real Germans. They're not really German. So what are they really? Do they even have a sense of connection to anything? Where do they belong? They feel like they don't belong here and they don't belong there. They're cut off. They're like yatihuna fil ard, wandering in the desert, like the Israelites wandering in the desert. We have to anchor our children in a sense of identity. We have to, for my own kids, I'll tell you, one of the things I desire for my own children is they should master the Arabic language, but they should master the language of the region they come from. They should know Urdu really, really well. They should be well educated in their home language. They should even be well educated in Farsi. They should know it. They should know that history and that culture. That's part of their identity. That's what Allah gave them. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. They should have that sense. And if they have that sense, then just like Allah calls upon that history to remind Banu Israel not to become something else over time, the same way we can keep our generations from not becoming something else in 100 years. We can't just be thinking about ourselves. We're gonna have to think about what our kids' are gonna look like. We have to think about that. How are we gonna preserve that? Some of you have already seen generations lost in front of your eyes. Some of you have already seen people that pretend they're so embarrassed by their heritage. They pretend they wish they weren't that. They wish they didn't look like this. They wish they looked like something else so they could fit better because they don't feel like they belong. They have no sense of dignity or integrity in their actual origin. But that's not their fault. I argue half of that is the elder generation's fault, or the parents' fault who didn't give that to them. So we must deliver that to them. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us grateful for the favor that He's given us. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us a sense of dignity, because Allah has dignified all nations and all peoples. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Allah, we honored all children of Adam. When Allah Azza wa Jal revealed, and Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said in his final khutbah, that no race, no nation is better than any other nation. No Arab is better than any non-Arab. That's actually Allah's Messenger's way of saying what Allah has also said in the Quran. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The most noble among you are the ones that have the most taqwa. All nations have been given nobility. May Allah Azza wa Jal help us acknowledge and realize and live by that nobility and be true to it. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن الحكيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم.